What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Morning Brew podcast. I'm your host, Kayla, and I interview creatives every other week to bring you the human experience behind their art. Before we get started, make sure you're following the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram so you never miss an upload. It also helps me to keep bringing on really cool guests. Today, we have someone who I am super inspired by: CEO, podcast host, author, and publicist for Alan Alda, Sarah Hill. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you because I think you're super cool. Can we start with your name and where you're from?
Yes, Sarah Hill from New York City, although I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas.
Incredible.
yeah,
I'm
I've
actually
been
in
in-
Austin right now. I don't know if I mentioned that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm based in Austin.
You know what? That makes me happy for Austin. It
Aw.
needs like cool people like you.
Thank you. Well, I think you're super, super cool, and I would love to take a moment to tell my audience how cool you are. You are an author, a publicist, a CEO, and a fellow podcast host, amongst, many other things. Can you tell me a little bit about your podcast and your company?
Sure. I'll start, I guess, with my podcast, Login Podcast. It kind of came about as I realized I get to have some really interesting conversations with some incredible people, and I also get to work with some of these incredible people. And we kind of kept running into the issue where they needed clips for the internet, and I wanted to kind of ask them questions to understand them better. And so I was like, we just should be recording these conversations. And it kind of started to take a life of its own, and it's been this like super surprising thing. So thanks for noticing. And then Bobi Media is this digital media agency in New York, and I started it 6 years ago. We've had like over 100 clients. Alan Alda with Clear and Vivid was our first client, and we've just been, hustling. I started it with $400, and
Wow.
yeah, $400 and like nowhere to live. So it was totally bootstrapped, like beyond bootstrapped, whatever that word is, was where I was. But we're still hustling. It's still bootstrapped. It's still mine. It's kind of what I consider now in small business mode. I have a great team. One of them, most of them have been with me for years. But Spencer, who has been there since the very beginning, so I'm really grateful for him. And yeah, it's just been this whole adventure. We've kind of been doing social media for actors, authors, publishers, clients, production companies, healthcare companies, doctors, flower delivery, hot sauce, mezcal, like you name it. We kind of continue to go after it. And it's been nice because we're doing social and digital media, but we've evolved a lot into doing video production, which I really love too. So it's been really fun. Thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, that's super neat. I mean, looking back, did you ever think that you would be where you are now and doing all of these crazy things?
No, it's so nice that you even say it, like where you are now. I'm like, oh God, it's no, I didn't ever expect any of this. And some days it's really hard and you're like, what am I doing here? You sacrifice so much, right? To build something, anything, or to create something, even you with your podcast, or you end up sacrificing the hours and the time and the energy, and you wonder sometimes what is it all for? And then you have other big moments of clarity where you're like, oh, okay, I see, like this was really satisfying and meaningful, and what has been, I don't want to say it's worth all the sacrifice, but it's definitely can justify all the sacrifice. So I had a moment like that recently. I was finishing up a book, and I had to write the acknowledgments of the book. And actually, it's still fresh, so I might start crying. But writing down the acknowledgments of this book was really fun because you get to go through and think about all the people who helped make this possible, helped make that moment possible. And you start to go back through and say, well, if this person wouldn't have done this, and this person wouldn't have done this, and if I wouldn't have stuck to my guns on this thing, then this would have never formed. This would have never been born, this thing that I created. Going back through, I just couldn't, once I submitted it to my editor, I just couldn't stop crying. And my mom called and was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I finished my book." And I have this immense sense of gratitude that was almost indescribable, of just like all the people who help you along the way. Yeah, so that's kind of what's been on my mind lately. And no, you don't know. I mean, life is it changes so quickly all the time. You can't predict, right? Even if we want to, and I would want to. I always want to
I always want to.
Yeah. And we never can. And so it's, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But yeah, thank you. When I was little, I really wanted to be doing things like this. I wanted to be writing. I had no idea it would look like this. I had no idea that it would take all this. I didn't know any of that. I definitely didn't know I'd be running a company in New York, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes into my next question a little bit, but tell me briefly, like, what is your story? How did you end up going from Texas to, New York with $400 and an idea?
I wish it was that easy. Let's see, I graduated in a recession from the University of Oklahoma. And the guy, by the way, who gave us the grad speech, he said he was famous for making the Happy Meal. Okay, I'll never forget this. And I was like, okay, this is the guy, who's ushering us into this next phase of life. And he's like, they give us accolades, ad agency, all this stuff. And then, the Happy Meal, he was the brain behind that. And then he's like, you guys are really screwed. You're graduating in a really terrible market.
Oh,
Good
wow.
luck. It's like, oh my God, it's so depressing. Anyway, so I started out in news, went to work for international news, went to work for Al Jazeera English at first, ended up not wanting to do that, came back home to Fort Worth. Then I kind of pivoted a little, because I was like, I need money to live on. I'd taken out debt to be out in DC for my internship. And I was like, I'm starving. Like, literally, I need something else. So I went and worked for the Cotton Bowl, the college bowl game. And that was my first full-time job. And then I got a second full-time job at the same time that was writing coupons. And then the coupon company kind of took off. So then I went with them because they paid and they were year-round. Anyway, started building out that side of their company, wanted to leave. That company imploded. It was a startup. It was like when startups were everywhere.
Oh.
You couldn't avoid them. They were the only people who had money somehow, which makes no sense, because the money didn't stick around ever for any of them. It was like 9 out of 10 failed. It was like the craziest. Yeah. So it failed. And then I went, there was a company that had a design agency that was based in Los Angeles, but had this little itty bitty like satellite network in Oklahoma City. And I applied and got the job with them. And it was really because in my spare time had been getting really into building websites and social media. And like, I had this copywriting background that I could spin up kind of a copy department, but I also had, these other aspects. And so they hired me and trained me really to do community management for some of their clients, which were like Nike, HBO, NASA, Google,
nice.
Like cool clients. Yeah. So once I had my hand on some of the forward thinking movement of like the internet zeitgeist, I was done. I was like, I don't know where this is going to take me, but I'm going wherever this kind of goes. Then my personal life, I was breaking up with someone, and I was dating someone again who was going to end up in New York, and I knew I was going to be in New York or LA, and all the doors to New York opened. So I went to New York. Then I'll try not to bore you too much, honestly, but it's like, ultimately I landed at a company called The Reading Room, and I grew their book audience into the millions. And then they kind of groomed me to be the next CEO of that company. So I became the CEO of that company, and we rebranded and raised more money for it. It was called Bookster. So I became the CEO of Bookster. I had a show and interviewed all these people, and we were having fun. I was a terrible boss. It was a very stressful environment. It was, I was young and dumb and under a lot of stress.
Hey, first time you learn.
My God, it was so brutal. It was brutal. And, that ended. And then after that is when I started Bobi, because I was looking for a job, couldn't really find one, knew that I wanted to kind of stay in the space. I knew it well. Alan found out that Alan and his team at the time had this podcast coming, and they knew that I was looking for something. And I had met him through interviewing him on the show I had. And we just hit it off. And actually, the day that I met him was also a day I found out I had to fire a bunch of people.
Oh,
and it was like one of the worst days of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to keep it together for my interview with him. And I felt so bad about how distracted I was that I wrote him an email, and he was so gracious. And then when I ended up leaving, I sent a note telling people I was leaving, and then he said, I might have something for you. And then I loved working with him so much and with his team that I was like, okay, if I get a real job, I won't be able to do this anymore. And this is important to me. So I think I'm going to see where this goes. And so I said to them, would you want to be my first client? I think I'm going to start a company. And they were like, yeah, we'll do it. So things aligned, like certain doors open. There was definitely a lot of hustling involved as well, but things aligned. And so now, that was 6 years ago, and it's been quite the journey through COVID. And, it's just like your entrepreneurial chops get tested over and over again being a business owner. It's like, I really admire business owners. I always had, but it's like when you're running your own business, you think you're kind of in your own little island, but when you really look up, you realize there's so many business owners that all have kind of the weight of the world on their shoulders. Yeah, I'm really passionate about getting to work with them. I mean, doing my work, but just in general. And I also tell everyone who wants to has a passion, I'm like, go start your own business, which is crazy. It's also crazy advice. So
this is also interesting. I mean, from my own perspective, I have crippling anxiety, and so I'm really bad about taking risks with things that don't feel secure, but firmly secure, multiple locking points. And so I just find this so inspiring to make me want to run with something that's maybe a good thing and just see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can tell you I also suffer from severe anxiety and rumination. So, and I say that to say this has not one day really been easy. You have moments where you feel like it's easy, but for me, somehow the anxiety is better than if I would have just stayed in a cubicle kind of doing Excel spreadsheets or something. So for me, it's okay, choose the anxiety that you want. Do you want the anxiety pursuing something that you're really passionate about that you can kind of look back on or look at and be like, okay, I'm creating this thing? That helps, I've found, because you feel at least somewhat aligned in something that you're passionate about.
That's a really fair point.
But the anxiety doesn't go away.
I believe that.
Yeah. Sorry. Start walking. Walks have helped my anxiety.
I go on my anxiety runs.
There you go. Exactly. I found exercise to be the only thing that's really helped. But it never goes away. But if you're, what is it that you're really passionate about? Or, what is it that you consider, that you've thought about taking the leap on? I mean, this is a big one.
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to have my foot in the door with the entertainment industry. And when I was choosing for college, I panicked and I picked business because it felt secure and it felt stable. And now I'm out here in Texas and I'm like, well, the entertainment is usually LA or New York, like you mentioned. And I just feel like I've locked myself into this other thing. And I'm pretty scared to take a leap.
Why?
My family's here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if an opportunity came up where I could afford to live in one of those places, in a heartbeat, I would be like, oh, we're moving. But until something proper comes up, my family's out here, and so I just feel I need to stay close to them.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'd have to say my number one pain in my heart is that I'm not close to my family. And every day you kind of think you are making a sacrifice on time to be somewhere else pursuing this thing, as opposed to being there for the everydays of your your family, and it's really hard. And I wish that more people had talked to me about that before I made these choices. I don't know if that would have influenced them, but I think I would have liked to have considered it more. But my family is very supportive. But it's smart of you because when I moved to New York, I moved like to 13 different places. I've lived in rat infested, roach infested, like three girls to one bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal. Like, it's brutal. And the cost is so expensive. So
Oh, yeah.
I get it. But I also want to say too, there's never, sometimes you have to make your moment. So if you see something that you're hungry for or that you're thinking about that you really want to do, I would say you should really look into it, like do research, start like really fully put weight behind it, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't know until you knock on the doors.
No, that's so true. I'm slowly learning that over this past year. That's something that's been occurring to me, is that if I don't ask for, something that I want, like, well, then the answer is always going to be no. But if I do, there's like, like a slim chance that maybe somebody says yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've got it. You've got
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, you can
Or
do
it's
it.
a work in progress, but that's better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you like kind of touched on it a little bit, but you are the incredible publicist for Alan Alda's podcast, Clear and Vivid. This is like a rhetorical question because I already told you how I feel about Mr. Alda. What is it like working with him? Like, how is that as a job?
Yeah, he's amazing. Where do I start? He's just an incredible human being through and through. He was really transformed the way that I lived my life, the way that I thought of fame, the things that I chased, the meaning that I brought into my work. And, it's funny because I'm his publicist and we do a lot of his work on the digital side and online. But Alan is so involved in his own well-being and career that it's like, he really doesn't need a publicist. I can't say that too often because I don't want him to fire me, but he really doesn't need, he does really need us, but then I'm also like, he's really good at what he does. So yeah, but Alan is a remarkable human. His North Star, the way that he evaluates people, the empathy he brings to everyone, the curiosity he brings to subjects that are even very difficult or frowned upon or taboo, or, he has managed somehow to provide this like gentle, curious, empathetic approach to difficult conversations, even though he may have his own opinion. He often does, he has his own opinion, but he is open to hearing people out, and he wants to learn and listen and connect. And to see someone maintain those values at the way and the level that he has operated on, and to still remain so grounded after the level of fame and power and money that he's been exposed to, is really remarkable. And he wouldn't be the one to tell you any of that. Like, he really wouldn't. But he is just an absolutely remarkable person. Like, I could truly go on about how impressive he is, and I do feel that I even get to work in somewhere in the realm with him is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He's amazing.
Feel like all of the stuff that you're saying like totally comes through, and if you like listen to him speaking in his podcast or even in like some of his writing, like you definitely get a feel for who he is as a person, and to hear you say that those things are just as true, in real life, like behind the scenes, is really cool to hear.
He's an amazing person. He's an incredible human being, thoughtful, intelligent, busy. He is like, he often will find errors that we've made. Like, how did he find it before we did? I was done it. Alan beat us again to fixing this thing.
He's on it.
Yeah, he's so on it. He's so on top of it.
Oh, that's so funny.
And constantly, he's got Clear and Vivid, and he's prolific with Clear and Vivid. He's writing. He's publishing. We're publishing a new episode like every week. And I was telling him that I have this podcast, and actually he's going to come on it. And he was like, the trick is you really need to be releasing weekly episodes.
Okay.
Like, okay.
I'll just cry in bi-weekly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, of course, but he managed, I don't know where he finds like time. Like he just manages it.
Honestly.
Yeah. I don't know. He's managing so much, but he definitely makes the time and does it. And super sharp guy.
Man, well, I'll make notes that maybe I'll have to start posting weekly if I ever find an extra 24 hours in my current 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Let me know when you do that.
I'll let you know when I have that breakthrough moment.
Yeah, when you find it, let me know, and I'll also try that.
Yes. Kind of along those lines, we're here to talk about your upcoming book, Chat Shit Crazy, A Very Human Guide to Improving Your Life with ChatGPT. How did you come up with this idea for a book?
Well, I don't know like how honest I can be about it. It's kind of strange because I was at the London Book Fair and I saw that all the publishers were trying to get people to do tarot cards. And yeah, like if it was like it blew up, I on TikTok it blew up, and then like the publishers kind of got behind it, and it was just it was everywhere. And I was like, I get that this is like happening. There was a big moment here, but I think the next big moment in publishing or in anything is going to be in AI and ChatGPT. And I was telling this to my friend who runs a publishing company. I was saying it should be a book, and I was trying to think of people that could write the book. Like experts, like experts on AI. And then I'm telling her about this, and she's like, I think you should write the book. I'm like, I'm an expert user. Like I'm a human being, a normal human, just using ChatGPT like a normal human. And I have no authority here is essentially what I was trying to tell her. And she didn't care and was like, you should write it. I'm like, oh God, okay. So then I was like, well, if I'm going to write this book, like I can't pretend to be an expert on ChatGPT because large language models, I know enough. I'm pretty tech savvy for sure. I was a VP of product for a website. And, I have that component to my knowledge base, but it's nothing close to what I would say has any kind of credibility in this space. Not to say I'm an idiot, but I just don't want people to think that I'm like, going on podcasts and saying I'm an expert. I'm not. So I was trying to think, what I am really good at is asking questions, and I am really good at being anxious and ruminating and using AI to try to make my life better, which is what I was in the process of doing. As I was learning AI and having this conversation with her, I kind of discovered that this was a great place for me to put all of my like worries and questions, and it was very soothing. So then I started to think, okay, if I write a book about AI, I think the way that I could do it and still kind of put my mark on it and make it give some value would be to make prompts that I think people could use that would be useful, but also tell stories that have happened in my life of decisions that I've made and how I would have used AI to make those decisions or make better decisions, or how I could have, it's like here's an example of a scenario in which you could ask AI these questions about your health or about dating or about X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of how it came to be. I love writing. I'm sure I'm planning to try to do some more of these kinds of books, but this one is interesting because it's a little bit of a mix between like self-help-ish, also part memoir-ish, part guide. Yeah, it's a strange book. I was like crying writing it, and I'm like, this is supposed to be a gift book. What am I doing? Like, why is this so dark all of a sudden? So yeah.
No, I think that's really neat. And I mentioned to you that I thought this would be a really interesting conversation because up until like 3 weeks ago, I was a ChatGPT virgin. I am like very scared of AI, and so I've not used it super often. But just before we dive more into your book specifically, I'm curious, what pros and cons do you see with the increased use of AI these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should start with the cons because there's some serious cons. And I really struggled when I was writing the book if I even wanted to write the book, because the cons are so alarming and so big and just getting bigger. And, I really grappled with like so many of the ethical questions, like how are they mining the data? How are they testing the data? Like, to name one, or the environmental impact to name another, or the unregulatedness of the security aspect. Like there's so many components to this that are terrible. And, you say, okay, like, can you just pretend it's not there? Like, no, like you can't. Then you're like, well, am I going to not use it? And it's like, well, I think it's too far. Well, personally, it's helpful. I mean, it is really, really helpful. It's really helped me. But I also don't think it's going to go away. I do think that there will be things that come, regulation. I do think that the environmental impact is going to have to be immediately addressed, or else, I mean, it's going to be like, it won't be usable, like hurt the environment too much. So I'm really betting on the fact that these problems will get solved. It's a little naive, but that's kind of how I've been able to push through some of the cons. Then there's other cons, like the fact that it can hallucinate, the product itself, or the fact that people can slip into psychosis when using it. It's very, very, very powerful. So there are a lot of cons going into it, and I address not all of them, but some of them in the book. There's definitely some warnings there in terms of how to use it responsibly. It's one of those things you can just pop on a website and start using this, but it is so powerful that to pretend that it's just a website, like you're popping into Reddit or something, it's not that. It's way more powerful than that. And I remember when social media started, I had the same feeling about social media, and I was an early adopter, an early user, and an early expert on social media. And I have that same feeling about AI, if not more so. I do think that it's going to quickly infiltrate and impact all of our lives. And because of that, I'm like, okay, well, if it's coming, how can I help people build a relationship with it that it will help their lives? How can I help them better understand it in a way that's useful for them, that will help them maybe give them peace in some way? I mean, the things that I tackle in the book really do talk about kind of like the loneliness epidemic, talks about putting health into your own hands, talks about building up connection. I mean, I think a big theme is learning how to better connect with others through using chat.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
how to better connect with others and how to better connect with yourself through ChatGPT. And with others, it's like, sometimes these nuanced dynamics with people can really stress a person out. And, we're in this huge loneliness epidemic. We're on more screens than ever for longer than ever. And our relation to each other can become so fractured and so distant that I wanted to address that and see how AI can help people bridge gaps in a better way, whether it's, with family members or friends or teachers, or, how can you better connect to someone? How can you be a better friend? How can you be a better, girlfriend? How can you be better? But also, how can you know yourself better? And there's a lot of tools in there to really dig deep in that. I noticed, and I knew this already, but was kind of confirmed. There was a Harvard Business Review study about how the number one use of AI, not just ChatGPT, but the number one use is for therapy and companionship. And that told me a lot. It told me a lot about the perspective that I should be writing from. And I already had this kind of planned anyway. I was well underway with the writing process when I read that, but I wasn't shocked at all, because I was listening to how my friends were using it, how people online were using it, how I was using it. And it was very clear that we were using it to help us navigate the world. And once that became obvious to me, I felt like people are using this already. I think I can help them use it more efficiently, or help those who want to use it kind of walk into it.
That's like so much deeper than what I thought it was gonna be, because I was thinking you were gonna have things like, how can I best organize my grocery receipts? Or like, I don't know, something like that.
That could be valid, though. That would be cool. That would be nice.
No, but that's super interesting too, about making better connections with people through the use of ChatGPT. Are all of the prompts in your book things that you have personally tried using it for?
Well, I definitely tested the prompts in the book, and that's going to be interesting because they're like, depending on the day, it's always a different answer. So I'm like, great, it's just going out into the public, and I can't predict what chat is going to say to
Sure.
them. So that makes me really nervous. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the prompts in there have stemmed from my personal need or my personal use. And it's really kind of like a pretty introductory level. When you start using, I mean, I sound like a crazy person, but I'm like, when you start using it more, when you start really talking to it, no, not really. I mean, luckily, like, oh, see, it's like the whole thing. There's these other prompts where you can be like, okay, let's go down to the second layer of Freudian theory and tell me what you think about this thing that I said to so-and-so, or I mean, just random stuff. So you can go deep and deep and deep into the analysis or dissection of relationships or conversations. I didn't go there with that. And if anything, I have in my own life, on occasion, I'll hear a prompt that someone on TikTok will say, and I'll go and plug it in and see what happens. And it's always really magical and fun. But the prompts that I use, they're relatively superficial. However, I think meaningful. I mean, certainly it's like, how can I be a better friend? How can I learn about religions? Or like, if my friend is this religion, how do I learn about their religion? It's also very in tune with how to find your moral compass or your sense of values, not necessarily your morals, but your values. And how do you kind of operate in the world while still being able to stay true to those? Because I think for me, when I was younger, it took a long time for me to realize my values. And so because of that, I spent a lot of time just learning about who people were and what they did. And before I really came back to like, okay, this is kind of who I am and what I believe in. I wish that everyone knew that about themselves sooner, that saying, know thyself. I think ChatGPT, as strange as it sounds, provides this interesting mirror where you can really dig in to know yourself better, which is kind of wild, but it certainly is an aspect of therapy.
That definitely makes sense. Do you, not that I expect you to like remember all of them, but do you personally have a prompt from your book that really sticks out to you for whatever reason?
One of the things that I love doing is saying, knowing what you know about me, because chat does have like a memory function to it.
Right.
And it is constantly kind of pulling an analysis of you. So at the beginning of the book, I have each person introduces themselves to chat and kind of answers questions so that the chat can kind of get to know who they are.
Oh, okay.
So that's the first part. But then after that, asking the questions, knowing what you know about me, would you X, Y, and Z? As far as like a prompt that I really like, there was one, I don't know if this is in the book. I think it is. Maybe I took it out. It's a little crazy, but sometimes like I'm so focused on today and I want so many things for my life that I can't kind of be present. So I'll say, knowing what you know about me, like, what do you think I will have coming up in the next 5 years? And I've loved hearing what chat thinks will happen for me. I love seeing it lay out this plan. And even if I don't agree with it, I get to see it. It's an exercise for me that I just love. And so as big moments in my life kind of change and chat knows about it, it kind of changes the 5-year plan, so to speak. But I'm constantly kind of checking in with that, or sometimes I'll ask it to say a prayer for me, which is super strange.
Oh, interesting.
But then I will read the prayer. I mean, I know it's not saying a prayer for me, but I'll read the prayer. Sure. Or there's one, I mean, this one blew me away. So my company is named after my grandmother, Bobi. And she was just this amazing Southern woman out of Louisiana, and like farmer's daughter, entrepreneur, ended up being a seamstress, and just a real spitfire of a woman. And she's not alive, right? And I miss her all the time. And so I was having this particular moment of just missing her. And I thought, chat can take on voices. You can pluck anyone out of history and say, can you respond to me as if you were so-and-so? And it will give you like a pretty interesting response in their voice. So I said, I'm going to describe my grandmother to you. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And I want you to respond as if you're my grandmother. And one of the questions I think I was going through a breakup or something, and it was like, what would my grandmother say to me about this breakup? And it was like, oh, honey, don't you worry. There's another one. You know, it even had
Aw.
like Southern expressions.
Yeah.
It's mimicry, right? But there's some beauty in allowing me to have that moment of nostalgia and surprise that I really liked. So it's a little wild. This new frontier is really strange. And to say that it's not would be a lie. And I have to be honest, some days I feel like a real loser when I was like writing the book and I'm like sitting there playing around with these chats. Like I'm like talking to no one, just constantly prodding this product. And I mean, it sounds nuts too, like to go on a date and then go back and write it into ChatGPT or go write your goals and ChatGPT your day at work and then have this thing spit back information out at you. It's strange, but it's where we're headed.
Yeah, I mean, out of context, it sounds like dystopian and weird, but when you're in context, it makes a lot of sense, and that's really beautiful that it can, mimic your grandmother like that.
It's super strange, I have to say. I think one of the biggest things I try to tell people in the book is to stay grounded. And that's when, if you're not grounded and you're believing it, or you think, some people think that it has this psychic superpower or, sentience, that it has some kind of God-given, I don't even know the word, that it can somehow, provide insight into the universe by its language and capabilities. And I understand why these people think that, because it is very powerful. And it is a language model, and it's communicating to a human in a way that it understands. And it seems, it has all this information. But, it's like you have to remind yourself as a user, like, this is just a program ultimately at the end of the day. And there's not real magic to it. It's like certainly, and
Yeah.
that scares me. It's scary to me that people are so easily giving up their own reality to chase, the pipe dream that they think ChatGPT can fill for them. So we're in it's certainly a strange dynamic, but I think it's one of those things where it's like very powerful tool. People are going to have to know how to use it. And this is how they can become familiar with it. But yeah, Kayla, if you start playing around in there and you start like feeling, which is up and down, take a break, take a second.
That's probably really smart. I mean, not to put you on the spot, but knowing what you know about me, what would you say is something that I should put into ChatGPT to ask later?
Oh, I would say first, I think you should, tell Chat a little bit about you, but then say like, hey, Chat, knowing what you know about me, where do you think there's opportunity for me that I have not exercised yet, or that I haven't looked at yet? Or where is a place that I have given up on that maybe I should look back onto or look back into? Or, if I was given an extra 5 hours a day to do one thing I was passionate about, what would that be? And Chat will help you come to those answers. So the point of that is, I don't want you to go into Chat and say, if I had 5 extra hours a day, I would want to be doing X, Y, and Z. You could do that and it would be helpful. But I have found that ChatGPT can be very, very useful in giving you ideas for things that you really haven't totally thought of yet. And so by going to it and asking it certain questions about areas you maybe have not discovered or thought through, it can help bring ideas to you, which are super powerful. So I would start there. I mean, it seems like, when we were talking earlier, you were saying that you have this kind of entertainment dream. Maybe something you go to Chat with is say, I'm in Austin and my family's here. I don't want to leave. And I, don't think that I could afford to move to Los Angeles or New York. And so how can I begin to fulfill my dream in some way where I am right now? And what would that look like? What would that look like if I could, what can that look like over the next 2 years? And Kayla, if you don't like the answer that it gives you, it's important that you know that you can talk back at it, right? Like you can say, I don't like this answer. Actually, I have no interest in going into animation. I actually, want to do something else. I'm more in line here. Can you answer it again, keeping in mind that I'm more interested in acting or whatever it is? Like you have to maneuver it. It's like a little flubber. You kind of have to like move it, give it the form that you want it to take. I would just say, write down your problems. Write down 10 problems and
how
plug
much
them
time
in.
does it have?
Infinity. It has an infinity amount of time. It's more like how much time do you have and how much time do you want to spend diving in. And when I was writing this, I spent a substantial amount of time. I was already spending a lot of time playing with it, which I did the same on social media as well. It was like a new toy. I love chomping at it, learning what it can do, but it's expansive. So if you do say, write down a list of 10 problems, you should take the time to go through at least an hour each and walk through scenarios with it and solutions. And that's what I mean. That's why the book is How to Improve Your Life, because it can help you.
That's so cool. I think I'll try that later, and I'll have to let you know what it says, because now I'm curious.
Please do. And you cannot hold me responsible if it gets crazy on you.
I will.
If it starts hallucinating, I don't know it, okay? No,
I don't know her.
Yeah, I don't know her at all. What do you mean? No, I stand behind that. I would certainly write down your quandaries, your problems, when you feel kind of stuck in something like what you had kind of described, and plug it in. It's surprising. And say, okay, can you give me more examples? Keep pushing on it as if you're like a 4-year-old. Can you give me more? Try it from a different perspective. Like, just keep pushing on it and you will get some really interesting information.
Interesting. Okay. And the title is Chat Shit Crazy. How did you end up on the title?
Yeah, I know.
It's very punny. I like it.
Thank you. It's certainly one of, either people love it or hate it. I find my people who I want to be reading it mostly like it. But yeah, I wanted something with chat in it. And I do describe kind of my struggle with rumination and how chat has made me feel more at peace by being able to throw my problems in there. And so, in some ways I'm like, I should have called it Chat Shit Sanity, but I didn't think of that until like a week ago.
Damn it.
So, yeah,
that could be the sequel.
Exactly. Like, I think that has to be the sequel. So it is Chat Shit Crazy just because I wanted to do a nod to the craziness that we all feel inside and how I do think that the chat can help alleviate that. And yeah, I just thought it was like funny and punny, and it just, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of reclaiming it, batshit crazy, I think is like a funny thing to say. And I'm neurodivergent, so I kind of play with that. I feel like to make myself feel better, I play with certain things like that. And I felt very fine and comfortable playing with the term crazy. It's alarming to some people, but I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy technology. Like, none of this is normal. None of this is normal. So yeah, hold on tight.
No, I think it's very funny and it makes a lot of sense. I like to finish with some lighthearted, funny questions. And
Sure.
I was thinking about some that are related to lifestyle. What is your favorite way to unwind?
Depends on the day of the week. If I don't have work the next day, I would say a good glass of wine and moment, hanging out with my friends, a good glass of wine, getting to go hang out outside. The other way to unwind really is like a long walk. This is so boring, but it's like I've really gotten into walks outside, especially in New York, along the High Line. Or the High Line and the West Side Highway. So yeah, I would say, walks, wine with friends, but mostly, sometimes, jamming out, just dumb stuff.
No, that's a big mood. Who is the coolest person that you've met through your podcast?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I'm trying to get inspired.
You know who I'll say there are these guys. They've done this podcast called The Innovator's Den.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and they have their podcast, but they also do a lot of podcast production. And I feel really motivated by them. They're incredible humans, great morals and hustling, and so I would say them, although I have continued to be surprised and amazed by the people that my podcast has allowed me to meet. And yeah, I would encourage you to keep going because it's fun.
I think I will. It's so fun. Definitely. What is a good book that you've read recently?
I have been having to read a lot for work lately. There's a book called Hypochondria that is by Hal Rosenbluth, and that's been really interesting. It's on kind of his journey into hypochondria and out of it and into the healthcare system. It's a really wild ride.
Interesting. Okay. That sounds like a crazy ride.
Yeah. And then there's also another one. I have this client, Richard Rothman. He has a book about his family. It's a historical novel about these letters that he discovered about his grandfather named Ruby. The book's called Finding Ruby.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah. And so his grandfather died, and no one really knew how. They knew he was in this, Spanish Civil War, but they didn't know exactly how or why. And so his discovery in that has been interesting. He's also just a great human being. So yeah, so those are really for work, what I've been reading lately. I am trying to get something I just ordered some books the other day that are not work related, but they always go lower on the totem pole.
They're all very interesting topics.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, great. Perfect. You need to come over. I'll get you some books. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, it's so good. And then, what is your proudest accomplishment?
Oh, I think my proudest accomplishment is after working like 10 years or something at a desk, I had really neglected my body and I had all this health stuff wrong and I couldn't really figure out what was happening. And I decided, I guess 3 years ago, I went to the doctor, I told them everything that was happening. It was kind of just like I was trying to be healthier. I couldn't. I felt sick all the time. And anyway, I just took kind of my health in my hands and I made this thing called the Year of Body. And so I started doing all kinds of things. I made give myself at least 1 hour a day to my body, no matter what. Because I was always in my brain and I was always in my heart, but I was never in my body. And so I said, I have to prioritize this. It's such a it's something that we take for granted. Well, at least I did. And so, yeah, I ended up after that year, reversed the age of my internal organs and all my blood work was good and my life got better. I got fit and felt better. And I was on some medication that was like really ruining my life, honestly. And I got off that onto something else. And but I needed to be, I had to get but I changed the medication and it really, really changed my life. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I was trying to lose weight at the same time. And I had to do like calorie counting and, more than anything though, was just made that promise to myself an hour a day of something, no matter what, even if my clients fire me, even if, everything's gone wrong, like I have to promise myself 1 hour a day. And I stuck to that. And it changed my life substantially. Everything from there got better once I started taking care of my physical body. And I'm not one of those, I'm not a wellness person by any means at all, but I would say that I now am that's the thing I'm the most proud of because it was the hardest by far, was like that discipline to not be drinking as much or going out with friends, the discipline that it took. And it was really lonely at times, but being able to get better control over what was happening with me physically, that's what I'm most proud of right now. But I hope that it seems like such a superficial answer, but I'm like, I just say it because I want other people to do it.
No, the discipline is so important and really hard. And also a year is like a long time. So that's really impressive.
Oh, I wish you could have seen. Maybe I mean, I wish I could show you. Like, I was just in such bad shape physically. I was in the hospital and I came out of the hospital and I was like, I have to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what spawned it. Burned. Yeah. So after that, I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. And then never been more proud of anything. Because it came with so much else that I didn't expect once I took that discipline and once I started prioritizing my health, my mental health, physical health, emotional health. I cut out a bunch of people that weren't as concerned about my needs, just stuff. It like flipped my whole world around. So yeah, so it's a long, weird answer, but that's something I'm the most proud of is.
That's great. I need to do more of that. My last question actually comes from someone else. I do a segment called Artists Ask Artists. So my last guest has a question for you, and then you can ask a question for my next guest. Okay. And so my last guest, her name is Mama Duke, and she is an Austin-based artist, and she was actually just on season 20 of America's Got Talent. But she would like to know, if you had to pivot book genres in terms of writing, which genre would you pick and what would you write about?
Oh man, I would pick probably sci-fi.
Oh, that's a great one. I love sci-fi.
Like, no hesitation. Super crazy sci-fi would definitely.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably sci-fi. What would I write about? I love, they call it, there's this thing called like fish out of water stories. I don't know if you can probably gather, like, anytime you take a lead character and you plop them out of where they are and put them into somewhere else, this foreign environment story. I love those because you have to see who this person is as they navigate this new world, and through that you get glimpses of who they are. So it'd probably be some kind of like alien story, or definitely something that's a hero. I love the hero stories.
Yes.
So probably something like that. I mean, sometimes I'm like, no, I just need to try to go write crime novels.
I think
or something,
about that often.
Let's do it. I'm so down. We need some writing accountability partners. Like,
I need that so much. My mom keeps telling me, like, you need to write your book. And I'm like, I have such a hard time starting, knowing that the first draft is going to be trash.
Here's some of my advice to you on that, because you should start. Is no matter what, you're going to feel like it's trash, right? And you're going to feel like it's trash because it's something, no matter what you do. My book, I feel like it's trash. Like, like truly, I don't know if we're the same in that way, but it's like your trash is someone else's treasure. And even if it just helps one person, then it's worth you doing. But I'm sure that you have a good story in you, and it's, it doesn't have to be your magnus opus. Like it can just be one of the things that you create, and like getting comfortable in that space will allow you to hopefully create more, right? And like kind of exercise that. So yeah, I don't know. That's like taken me a long time to get to that place. But if you're in a moment of writing hesitancy, push through, please.
I have been in a stage of writing hesitancy for about 5 years. The biggest hurdle is just starting. And I feel like once I do that, it should be fine. But it's very hard.
You can do it. Just carve out time. Carve out time. It will come faster than you think. I promise.
I'll have to ask Chat to find me how I can make some more, like an extra hour in my day or something, and then use that for writing.
And also what inspires you. Like maybe something that you could put in there is like, what would be on the other side of me writing and possibly publishing this book?
Oh, like, fair point. Give me the future.
Yeah, like give me something that motivates me. Yeah, what is going to motivate you? What will that look like? Can you envision in your mind what it will look like if you have a book under your belt? What will that feel like for you? How would you feel after that? And if you can use that as motivation to write now, great.
What an inspiring piece to end on. I'm going to take that to heart.
Take it to heart. Take it to heart.
And before I forget, because I've already forgotten once, now you can ask a question for my next guest.
Okay, who is your next guest?
I don't know yet. Probably a musician or a band, most likely.
I would say on your lowest day, you have to say the 3 lowest. Where do you find your source of hope and inspiration?
Oh, I like that one. With 3 lowests. Okay. Noted. Because the third one is the most important lowest.
By far, we need to like hammer it in. You've got to be so freaking low.
Right, because the answer changes depending on how many lowests there are, to be honest.
So, like the first one, they could be like a cheeseburger. And then the
last, like a bath.
Yeah. It's like, no. We need you like down.
When you are at rock bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great. I will definitely ask them that. And then lastly, time for shameless self-promo. Where and when can people get your book, and what else do you have going on?
Oh, thanks. You can buy the book as of December 2nd. It's out for pre-order now everywhere books are sold. And log in. We've got Alan Alda's episode, I believe, coming out August 11th. So that will be fun. Please tune in to that. Then we've got Bobi Media stuff happening every day. Feel free, if you're looking to do digital media of any kind, give us a call. Yeah, and I'm around. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm really passionate about connecting with other people who are doing cool things like you are doing, Kayla. So, don't hesitate ever to reach out, or anything I can do to support you or anyone listening, let me know.
Incredible. And everything that you just said, I will have linked or listed somewhere in the description so it's easier for people to find. But Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so glad that we had time to talk, and I just think you're such an inspirational person, and so I really enjoyed picking your brain a little bit.
Oh, thanks, Kayla. Well, I'm really honored. You've got such a cool... You're doing such cool things in your own right, so I'm really honored to be involved. You're such a lovely human being, so I'm really happy to meet you.
That's all for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Sarah's book is available for pre-order now. The link to her book, Bobi Media, and her podcast projects are all in the description below. I have some really cool stuff in the works, so once again, make sure you're following the podcast on Spotify, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts so you don't miss out. Tune in next time for a super fun interview with Keith Sanders of the band Brother Thunder.